Now we're actually going. We can play the music again one more time. Damn. Welcome into the studio.
Welcome to.
It's a new setup. We're still kind of getting used to it.
With Merlin.
And sorry about that, guys.
Photography chat.
But
with Merlin.
Welcome to another episode of The Chat. It's episode 16, season 3, with Cam Sloan.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Feels like deja vu, right?
Yeah, I've been through this before, I think.
It's like, put your little hand in mine. Groundhog Day?
Yeah, exactly.
It feels familiar. But yeah, we were just talking about how the common link between us is Toronto. I moved out here about a year ago, last May, and Cam's been here for about 6 months now.
Yeah.
And a big driver for me was family, and my partner moved out here November 2020, and so kind of missed her a little bit too. So it was
Fair enough, yeah.
Family and a gal.
Yeah.
What brought you out here?
So my partner and I were just in Toronto for like 10 years and started pondering what we should do next. We had just both kind of honestly just like lived our Toronto lives to the fullest in the like 9 or 10 years that each of us were there. And so yeah, we just ended up deciding like, okay, we want to go try something new. And I mean, we both were in a position where we were currently working remotely, and so that like allowed us, like it was just a good time to make that happen. And we explored like Montreal, still too cold, and we looked at like, can we get over to like, I don't know, overseas or something. It's like there was so much logistics to figure out to do that, and we kind of just settled on like, yeah, coming out to BC. And it took us a bit to narrow in on like what city. We kind of made a checklist, and then initially we were like anywhere but like Vancouver. Just, I don't know, we didn't really want to be in another like city center, like coming from Toronto. Felt nothing against Vancouver, just felt it would be too similar, but it like checked all the boxes we wanted of like good craft beer around, like close to the ocean, close to good snowboarding, all the stuff that like when we like looked at the list, it was just like, yeah, we're probably gonna end up here. So yeah, that's how we ended up here.
Well, I mean, lucky for you, Vancouver isn't really a city.
Yeah,
it's kind of like a matured hick town. Because I grew up in small towns in BC.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was born in Calgary, and then my parents decided they didn't want to have a mob of drug dealing children, so they moved us out of Calgary to this little tiny town in the Rocky Mountains called Kimberley, which when we moved there in '88, there was like just a little over 4,000 people, and I mean, joke's on them. We turned into drug dealers in a small town. We probably would have gotten into less trouble if we stayed in Calgary, because there would just been more to do.
Yeah.
Than just get drunk and do drugs.
I had a similar experience of like what my parents like took us out of the main downtown core in Ottawa, and they were like, no, we're going to the suburbs, it'll be much, and then yeah, you're just stuck.
Yeah.
Like, well, we can do drugs and drink, and that's about it. And yeah,
hooligans.
Guess what we did?
Which was it was kind of funny. And then from Kimberley, like we moved to Fort St. John, which was like even shittier. It was a bit of a bigger town, but so I've been all over like different small towns in BC. And when I did finally make it to Vancouver, I was like, ooh, Vancouver! Like it's, when you've been used to small towns, it's like really big. But then after living in Toronto for like, almost 5 years, I think it was. And then coming back here, it's like, oh, this is quaint.
It does have a feeling, to be honest, like coming from Toronto, where it's like, I don't know, 40, 50 minutes to get anywhere. Like, you know, because you leave your house and like, if you're taking transit or you're driving, like you're just like, it's going to take you an hour to get there, basically. And
but that's because of the sheer distance of it, versus like Vancouver, where it takes 40, 50 minutes because everyone's an asshole driver that can't get their shit together. And so it's like, it takes you 45 minutes to move 4 kilometers. Where like, Toronto, it's like, the GTA is fucking massive.
It's true. But I don't know, I found it pretty easy to get around here so far. But we're like off in the East End, and it's just like, I don't know. It's very...
Grant joined us. What's up, Grant? How you doing, man? I want to get you back on and talk about your book. I'll message you or email you or something. Sorry about that.
Hey, Grant, I don't know you, but I
Grant
maybe
Britton.
will one day.
He is Grant Britton. Check him out. It's J Grant Britton on Instagram.
Cool.
One of like the most legendary escape photographers.
Oh, nice.
And a wicked awesome dude to chat with. So.
Oh, wicked.
Thanks for popping in, and also all of the regular friends of the chat. Thank you guys for jumping in here. And it is a bit different though.
Yeah.
And like my partner and I, when we first got here, it took us a while to adjust to being like, if we're gonna go out to get food, to do it before 9.
Yeah, totally.
Like, we got so spoiled in Toronto where it's just like, oh, it's like 1 a.m. and we want to get like Mexican food. You can find it.
Exactly.
Or any kind of food.
It is. That was a big adjustment here for sure. It's quiet.
And the camera gear was cheaper.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. And more plentiful. So I miss that. And then downtown camera.
Yeah. R.I.P. Not to them, but like to them in our lives.
Like I'm still doing the mail order, and I don't know. It's changed my relationship with photography, not having direct access to something like downtown camera. So for all the Toronto people that are on right now, fucking cherish downtown camera. Tell them you love them. If they let you hug them and it's consenting, give them a hug and stuff. Mad love.
And go give them your business.
Give them money, because they need it so that they can keep providing us with these sweet resources.
I still also like order from them. I'm not doing the mail-in like for Dev or anything, but yeah, I've been still just doing my bulk orders from them usually, and like they just really nail it with like the pricing, and the customer service is like on point. So
absolutely,
I'll continue to do that.
So what got you into photography?
So like I'm relatively recently coming into photography kind of for a second time maybe. Like when I originally got into photography was through, like many people, like traveling, and I went to Europe after university. I like had a job, and it was like not the most fun job, and I like didn't do the whole Euro trip, but then my friends were like planning this, and so I ended up kind of just like bailing out on this job that I like, I was like, okay, I don't know, my like best friend was going with his girlfriend, and my girlfriend was going too, because they were all friends together, and I was like, no, I'm like, I don't care how much this like cost me. I like went in, I traveled not the right way, like put it all on my credit card and stuff at the time, and it was just like,
but I don't think there's a wrong or right way, like
but maybe I don't recommend that as like the ideal way to, but that's what I did. And while I was doing that, like kind of just figured I should bring a camera. This was like before every smartphone had a really good camera, so I got like a little point and shoot, probably like, I don't know, those Canon, I don't know, they were tiny little like Canon Elfs or something. I don't even remember what they were called.
Digital
Power Shoot or Power Shot. Yeah, it was digital.
Okay, well, they had the Power Shots, which were a little bigger, and then they had the Elfs, which were like the little tiny guys.
I think it was really quite tiny, and so I was just going around with that. My friend was like, he studied art and photography in school, and so he brought along like his proper DSLR. But I was just going around with this point and shoot and kind of like shooting my way through a couple months of travel, and it was like really fun. But then I didn't do too much after that. That was a long time ago now, about 10 years ago. And hopefully we're still,
now we're still good.
Still be going. And then honestly, like when I kind of recently got back into photography was I was planning to do some more video work for like this business that I'm trying to get off the ground. I was trying to do some videos, like talking head videos and Zoom calls, all this like pandemic stuff that was happening. So trying to get something that would let me do that. So I found a Sony a6000. This was honestly just over a year ago, or about a year ago maybe. And yeah, I got a Sony a6000. I was like, well, I may as well, like, while I have this camera, like, go and use it for what it was made for. So I went out, started like getting, I don't know, just taking some pictures, go walking around, and like I had never really learned before how to even use like the like proper focal, like proper like f-stop and like all your shutter speeds. Like I was mostly shooting on auto before that, and so I really like dove deep into learning the camera at that point. And then I don't know, I kind of got sucked in and like really hooked. I would just go out each afternoon. Again, this was like kind of in the middle of the pandemic, and like you just like so much anxiety sitting at home, and so much like just like not much to do. So I really just took a shine to this, that like got me outside exploring, walking around Toronto at the time, and like just like go for like, I feel like I would just go out for like 4 or 5 hours and like just be like so in the moment, so like in the present moment. And you know, it really like just sucked me in at that point. Like seeing a nice like patch of light like this, like just, you know, can make your whole day. And whereas maybe before that I was kind of just not paying attention to those things in life, and so it kind of rekindled a lot of that excitement about just like where you are, where I am, like right here and now. And so I've been keeping at it since then. I've been but that's kind of what brought me back into where I am now.
Nice. So the business was like a digital media kind of thing when you were trying to get started, or? Yeah,
so in my like day-to-day, you know, non-photography stuff, I'm both like a software developer and like freelance and contract work for companies.
Okay.
And then I'm also an entrepreneur of a fledgling startup business that is like, you know, got a handful of customers, but it just like keeps me occupied and is a fun like project, but also it's a business that I'm working on. So it was partially to record like some videos of like how to use the product, how to like get started. And to be honest, like I didn't really end up recording those videos, like even though I got the gear for it. So but I did like discover this whole new hobby and craft that I really enjoyed from getting it. So
that's a good origin story.
It's definitely, it wasn't planned. It wasn't like I gotta get into photography. It was like, honestly, I think I do this with a lot of things where it's like 2 birds, 1 stone philosophy of like, you know, if I get a bike and my job is across the city, I'll bike like 20 kilometers just to get to work, and like, hey, I'm getting exercise. But like, I don't really go just for a bike ride. And this was kind of like, well, I'm buying this camera because I'm gonna make these videos, but because I have it, I may as well like make use of this thing. And it was a bit of that where it's just like accidentally stumbled into something that I really like. The same way with like biking, I did it out of like, I don't know, I had to get from A to B, but it turns out, I really like getting from A to B. You know what I mean? So
that's cool.
Yeah.
So you do mostly you do biking around Vancouver then?
Not a ton since I got here. I actually just got my bike like tuned up, so I'm pretty excited to like do more of that. It just kind of sat there for a bit for a couple months. Mostly was like busing, a lot of walking around. The city is like pretty walkable. I'm living in East Van, and like I've walked all the way to downtown, like taking photos and stuff, and you know, it's not like crazy to do that here.
No, it's not bad. Like that. That's one thing that's definitely a bit nicer versus Toronto. Is like you can walk from different parts quite easily. Yeah, it's nice from that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And biking's not too bad either. I live up like towards Riley Park, like a little past Mount Pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you don't really notice it's uphill,
Right.
until
You're on a bike and you really notice how uphill it is.
yeah. And I tried doing the biking thing last year. I'm gonna definitely do more of a concerted effort this year, but going down is really cool.
Yeah,
it's,
yeah.
it's like super fast because my partner, she lives down in Strathcona, so
Mm-hmm.
it's I was like, I'll just bike because parking sucks to find there, and I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. But with the
It's-
space here now, I'm a little more.
Yeah, you're like halfway there, kind of between. And yeah, like I did notice that. I'm still adjusting for the biking thing here of like, I don't know the streets as well as I knew Toronto, like which streets are good to bike on, which ones are not. And yeah, so I'm still adjusting to like that because I don't know. Biking can be super sketchy if you're not going on the right roads and stuff.
Yeah, I've got a
Yeah.
few friends that have had like really bad concussions that have like been life altering.
Yeah.
Mostly it happened in Toronto for them.
Yeah, it's definitely a dangerous biking city. It's but if you've done it for like 7 or 8 years, then it can become second nature. So yeah, it kind of was for me. Yeah.
So what kind of stuff do you feel like you're drawn to shooting most? Like you mentioned, you like doing like walks where you have your camera with you.
Mm-hmm.
Is it mostly street photography, or is there like other things that you've explored or interested in exploring?
So for like what initially drew me in was like very heavy in street photography, like kind of typical like candid kind of photos, and not like in your face with the flash kind, but like just a little like sneaky and like just going around trying to capture moments. Definitely not like huge into portraits, but like to be totally honest, like some of street photography stresses me out a bit when I'm like out, and like it's not like I'm trying to be like sneaking photographs, but I'm also like not trying to like make ask for street portraits and like
Yeah.
and so I don't know, there was like a time where I was just going and doing that quite a bit, and I don't know, I had one encounter with like someone was on a bike like I don't know 20 meters away, and like I just framed them in a shot. They were like in the corner of this shot, and they like came right up to me and they were like, "You just take my fucking photo, man," and like freaking out. And I was like, yeah, you're in the photo. And I showed him, and he's like, "That's not cool. That's how you get your like head smashed in, and you better watch yourself." And like, and I'm just like trying to like be level-headed here, and I apologize. I'll delete the photo. I was like shooting digital at the time, and I'll delete it, no problem. And he kind of went off angry, and then I went off like not feeling great about obviously like this. I don't know. I don't think I was necessarily in the wrong for taking a photograph, but I also don't want my photography to like upset people or make them feel like self-conscious about themselves in their day-to-day. And you can tell some people don't want to be photographed.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know because he was like so far away, but that was a weird situation. He actually ended up, I like walked around the corner and he biked back up to me after, and I was like, oh shit, here we go. And he came up and he was like, "I'm sorry, man, like I've just had a really rough rough couple weeks," and like we kind of had a little like chat about it, and I apologize for making him feel that way, but like I don't know, I don't like necessarily like those situations, and I feel like it's rare, but I just also don't necessarily, I don't know, want to be in that a ton. So I still do sometimes a bit of like street photography, candid street photography, but I think part of it, maybe why I'm not doing it as much too, is like I'm living in the east side and it's pretty quiet over there. There's not a lot of people like walking by, so like it's a little more like suburban, and so like it's a bit, I don't know, it's not like if you're downtown in the thick of it, or where I was originally starting with this in like downtown Toronto, like you can get away with it pretty easily because there's like 50 people walking by. Like I probably walk by the same person every day in my neighborhood, and he's gonna be like, why are you taking pictures of me? Like, you know. So a lot of my photo walks like around my neighborhood in kind of the east side of Vancouver are like just whatever I see in my day-to-day, like kind of, I don't know, cityscape, landscape-ish stuff, but like a lot of back alleys and just like little things that I notice in, and it's a bit, I don't know, it's a bit different. It's like, it's more, there's generally not people in these shots, you know, it's like, maybe more a mix of architecture and just like, kind of like scenes. I just like seeing like a nice scene that like looks like maybe there's a story to it or something, and grabbing a shot of that, and so there's a lot of that. I'm sure people are probably seeing me walk through their back alleys and they're taking pictures of their backyards, thinking, "What's this guy doing here?" Because like it's probably not super common in like that area, but I feel like, I don't know, it's what I got. Like if I'm going out of town, I'm gonna take pictures there too. It's so I guess I don't particularly like have a thing, but I know like I don't really do much in terms of portrait work. That's probably my only thing that I like haven't really like explored, or that I'm not like actively like trying to explore. I'm still like pretty open to a lot of stuff in photography, being pretty new to it as well.
It took me a while to get into portraits.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, people photos always kind of weirded me out a little bit, because people have opinions and they can be like, I don't like that. Or like you're taking a picture of like, leaves on a street or something. They have no opinion.
Yeah.
And none that you can hear. Like,
Yeah.
They could have opinion. Like, it's interesting that bike story, because when I'm doing street photography, I try to avoid taking intimate photos of people. And it's like, most of the time people are sort of in the background, or they're far enough away I don't feel like I'm intruding on them. And like you followed up on the story, but I was thinking like, man, I think that guy freaking out on you was more about him than it was about you.
Totally.
Like he's just going through it, and you just happen to be someone that was like there for him to just like snap on and just unload all that shit.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, like he kind of followed up and showed that was the case. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've had other like minor things. I can't remember them right now, but like that was the one that kind of has obviously stuck with me a bit. Regardless, yeah, like I just want to like, yeah, it's a mix. I don't want to like impose on people too much with what I'm doing. I also kind of now maybe take more the approach of like people being a little more distant in frame, or like they're just filling the frame as opposed to being like the main subject in it. Though I guess when I was originally like getting started in street photography, like I was watching videos from like classic street photographers, and you kind of want to experiment and like find what your limits are with these things and where do you land on it. And so yeah, I tried all kinds of like sneaking shots up close, or like not even just straight up like taking a shot and they're seeing, and it just doesn't, it like felt off to me, but you only realize that by like pushing your boundaries, where you feel comfortable and where you're, I don't know, ethically aligned, I guess, like on some of the stuff.
So I personally don't like doing that stuff because like I don't like upsetting people, and I'm very non-confrontational. But if you can get a shtick, you can kind of get away with it. Like I think one of my favorite shticks that a photographer has put together is what Gary Winogrand does. I don't know if you've ever like explored any of his work or anything. beautiful street photography. But like when you see there's like a documentary that like followed him around while he was taking photos.
Yeah.
And like his whole shtick was he was just this like bumbling guy with his like camera. He's just like, I don't even know what's going on with it here. Like, you know, he's like,
Right. Yeah.
and so it kind of disarmed people because they're like, well, what's up with this schmuck? Like,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, he's not stealing our souls right now. He can't even figure out how to use his goddamn
That's
camera.
a pretty classic strategy that I see people like have stolen or adopted is like kind of the like, like what's my,
Yeah.
and like you're faking taking pictures and stuff, and like I do have a like I was shooting a lot with the Ricoh GR, which is just this tiny point and shoot, like very unassuming camera, you know, that is easy to shoot from the hip, and it looks kind of just like a wallet you're carrying around, and so it's yeah, it's like a pretty easy one to get away with, like not offending people, or you know, but every now and then people catch you, and like yeah, I don't know, I'm actually like it really depends on like my mood that day. How much do I want to be out like engaging with my surroundings and like people in it, or how much do I want to just be like coasting through without like, because yeah, you can run into issues. Do I want to run into an issue today?
Yeah.
Am I like mentally in the right state to like, I don't know, engage with someone if I do take their photo? I should be. I shouldn't just be like weird about it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I should be able to, I feel like I should be able to explain like what I did. Even with the guy on the bike, like I feel like I was like, yeah, I took it, you were like in this part, like, but like some days I don't want to be like having a conversation necessarily, and so
Yeah.
I'll probably be a little more conservative in my like approach in doing that. So yeah, I don't know, street photography is like also dependent, like how I shoot is sometimes dependent on my mood that day, how much I'm willing to go out.
Well, that makes a lot of sense too. It's just like, you know, what do you have the capacity for, and what can you handle? One thing that I've adopted when I want to take those pictures that I feel might make people uncomfortable, I ask for permission. And you don't get like what drew you into it first because you've like sort of disrupted that moment.
Yeah.
But I've just asked people, being like, hey, like, you know, I'm a shitty Instagram photographer. I really do nothing with these photos, but you were doing a really cool thing there, and I just liked when you were like, you know, sitting there like smoking your cigarette, contemplating things, or like, you know, we're just like sitting on your phone scrolling. Do you mind if I take a photo of you just doing that? And more often than not, people are like totally cool with it. And I also made these like tiny little business cards from Moo that like fit in that like useless pocket in your jeans. And I'll be like, you know, you can check out my stuff here, and if I do post it, you can find my Instagram, and if you hate it, here's my contact information, and you can give me shit, and I'll try and delete it off the internet. And people have been pretty cool about that so far. I haven't had many people like react negatively to that.
I think that's a good way to go about it. And I like the business card thing. I think I've heard a few people kind of say like they'll carry cards around. It's just like, even if you were doing more candid stuff, then you I don't know, show them like, hey, here's like what I do. Here's a point to your work, as opposed to like, I don't know, not having anything to point to. I just remembered another story. This was not even street photography. I was just like, there was a house. I don't know, I'm fairly interested in just like these suburban West Coast style houses. It's so much different than what we have in Toronto.
It is very
like
different. There's more brick out there.
Yeah, and there's all these like wood houses and painted in funky colors, and people get a lot more creative out here, I find, with like what they do with their homes. And I was like taking a picture of this person's house, and they came out and they were like, yes, can I help you? And I was like, oh, I'm just taking a photo of your home. Sorry, I didn't mean to like, you know, freak you out or anything. And they were like, are you working for my landlord? I was like, no, definitely not. And I had it on a tripod because it was like, it was about dusk, and like, it was a film camera, so I just had to shoot it like a lower speed. And I explained, they let me take the picture and stuff. It was funny though, they were like, you know, are you working for my landlord? Are you like, because you tell me if you were, right? That would be entrapment. Like, I like, yeah, no, I'm not working for anyone. And, like,
Yeah.
feel like I could easily take a picture of your house without having to set up a tripod and stuff and an old film camera to do it. But it was a funny, like, awkward situation. But I did, like, kind of just say, like, here's my Instagram. You can see, like, my work here.
Yeah.
And that gave me something to point to, but it wasn't as, like, official as maybe, like, oh, I got a card that you can, like, check out. And I don't know. It was an interesting situation. I guess you can't avoid some of that stuff.
So, Tainoi Vilafan, I hope I didn't butcher that, was asking if there will be POV videos in the future of how we do portraits. I've never really thought about doing that, but I've seen other people do that where they, like, strap a GoPro into their hot shoe.
Yeah.
And I've thought about doing that, but I don't really find myself that interesting. Like, I don't think anyone would, like, care to, like, watch me wander around Chinatown and, like, have, like, odd interactions with people.
It's an interesting one. Like, I don't know. And when I was kind of getting into street photography, I would watch quite a few of these POV, just like people walking around and, you know, doing street photography. And I really do like learning from just, like, maybe not an instructional course or a book. Like, I like learning by seeing how people do their craft, you know? And so it was kind of neat in that way. You do see, like, the little tricks that they're pulling and how they kind of, like, carry themselves, even, like, how they are positioning themselves. And some of them are talking about it as they go. Others, they just put on some music and, you know, it's just like a random I don't know, thing to watch that, like, yeah, I like them. I did think about the same, like, should I do something like that at some point? I feel like it's just, I've heard other people say, like, when you're out taking photographs, but you're doing a video about taking photographs, like, it's a different experience.
Yeah.
You're kind of making a whole separate thing, and so I like taking photographs to be, like, again, in the moment, like, where I am, and not necessarily thinking about, like, how to produce a video, and, like, I think it would just change a bit about the experience for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to that too, because that's sort of, like, why I do the chats on Instagram Live here instead of, like, you know, being more pro like other people do, where they use, like, some streaming or, like, some fancier thing where they can not deal with, like, the limitations of, like, what the grams can do. Like, it's definitely come a lot further from when I started this in season 1, like, what you can do with Instagram, which is cool. But the biggest one is, I don't think in motion, I think more in stills. And so trying to do video stuff, it just doesn't compute in my mind anymore. Like, it used to when I was a lot younger. What's up, Allie? You're an asshole. I miss you and I love you lots. I hope it's not snowing in Montreal again. I used to think in video a little bit, like, way back in the 2000s. Me and my friend Cohen, Chris, he's been on here a few times, we would make, like, shitty YouTube videos before YouTube was a thing.
Right.
Like, on, like, fucking 8mm, like, Sony cameras, and yeah, we'd, like, upload them into our own fucking web servers and shit.
Yeah.
Because there was, like, no hosting services, and it was just, like, dumb shit. Like, we made fun of spinners because we thought they were, like, dumb. Just, like, interviewing random people about stuff online. But afterwards, I don't know, when I started doing more photo stuff, I've tried to, like, do video, and it just doesn't compute. So, like, this is easy. I just push live, and it just goes, which is cool. And then stepping up a little bit with, like, the audio stuff so that I could do the podcast thing. But it's all easy shit.
Yeah, you still get to kind of, like, I don't know, run the mics and then go. And as opposed to a whole production, a whole process that you have to I don't know, change your life to make work and stuff. Instead you can kind of just I don't know, hit record, go run with it and enjoy it. And yeah, I don't know. You ever see those videos where people are hiking up a mountain, but they're walking, the camera's there and they walk by it, and I'm always you're going right back to go pick up the camera and then move it, and you do that 50 times on this hike, and it's that kind of thing.
The Casey Neistat stuff.
I don't know, but
oh, you never got into the Casey Neistat?
No,
okay.
no.
Oh man, so Casey Neistat was huge for that. He was a big, still is a big creator down in the States. Who did some really cool guerrilla style ad campaigns for some brand companies, and then got huge prominence doing this daily vlog of his life, which he'd been interviewed and talked about it, where it consumed so much of his time, because you spend all day recording and then you go and have to edit it so that you can upload it that day,
right.
And rinse and repeat and do that over and over again. And it was a lot of stuff like that, where it's he'd be walking up to the camera, and you just know that he was already there, and then he hit record, and then ran to where he wanted to enter in from, and then had to do it all over again.
Yeah, it's a lot of planning, and when you see people who really do this stuff well, you almost can't tell that there's any of that, but there's even more, because they're just doing it so well, it's so well orchestrated, cutting the frames every few seconds so the viewer's not bored, and those kinds of things that are I don't know, just techniques for making good video. I was looking into some of that at one point, and it just didn't come as easily, or it didn't spark the same interest that photography did, for example, where you're just out and you're taking, like you said, still frames of everything, and it's so I don't know, I'm not writing it off. I think that maybe one day that could be a cool addition, but it's not something I'm getting ready to launch or anything like that.
I think if I wanted to do it, I'd have to buy more gear, and I already have too much gear. I need to get rid of stuff. But they made a point. They meant more doing portraits at home kind of thing. I mean, I've done that with some shoots in the past, where if I'm shooting at a friend's studio or something, someone will set up their phone or something to do a time lapse of what we've been up to, and that's kind of cool. So if I end up doing any shoots in the space, I might explore that, because that'd be kind of fun and cool. And I mean, it's kind of wild now how far phones and shit have come. The camera in this thing is insane. My very first DSLR can't even hold a torch to what this can do.
Totally, yeah.
That thing cost me $5,000 in 2004, 2005.
And again, I love actually consuming this stuff. I do watch quite a few videos of people recording their portrait sessions and stuff, and I find it pretty fun.
Who's one of your favorite creators then for that kind of stuff?
So let's see. There is there's a street photographer, Ivan Chow, and he goes around with mostly a Ricoh GR. And this is on the very well produced side of things. And he moved from Hong Kong. He was doing a lot of these POV style ones, but he also now does more well produced ones. And he moved from Hong Kong to Toronto, and so I kind of like watching like seeing scenes of Toronto and stuff. Like I miss it a bit, and so it's cool to see people walking around taking photos of a city that you, I don't know, think fondly of.
Yeah.
So that's a cool one to check out. There's a guy named, this South African guy named William Sheepskin.
Okay.
And he does more like portrait sessions and random, I don't know, just random photography experiments of like mostly all film, and he's like pushing Kodak Gold to 800 and like, you know, trying to roll on that versus the non-pushed, and I like that. It's a pretty like small channel, and it's kind of like, yeah, he's just recording with his iPhone, maybe even no mic, I don't even know. I think, you know, sometimes he's like talking into his phone, and like, but I like that kind of like authenticity. That's a much more raw channel than like what Ivan does, being like very well produced. And
Nice.
so those are a couple that I kind of like, you know, when I have just a few minutes, I'll just throw that on and like see what they're doing. Yeah.
Have you checked out any of Lucy Lumen's videos?
No, I haven't.
Hers are great. Lucy was a guest on here a while back, and she's in Australia, I believe. And she's got like a wicked awesome YouTube channel, and she's been doing all sorts of cool like review things, and she started doing interviewing now too. I think she's got a podcast going as well.
Cool.
Just a really like lovely person, very cool. I don't watch a ton of content stuff. Like, I think one of my favorites is Grainy Days.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly, like, I don't know, I hear people like hating on his stuff. I find him hilarious. Like
He's
his
wickedly hilarious.
sense of humor is just like really good.
Big shout out to the Big J. He was a guest on here too. Probably one of the most ridiculous chats I've had was his. Not because of him. He was great to chat with. I really enjoy chatting with him, but he just has such a monstrous following that the chat was just filled with shit. It was just like, you know, poo poo caca, like, you know, I like dicks, shout me out. Like, it was just, I had to like give up on even trying to read the chat to see what was going on.
Yeah.
But I appreciate his sort of self-deprecating humor as a fellow shitbag. It just kind of really hit. And yeah, I like his videos too. Like his 8x10 video is probably one of my like most favorite photography videos I've watched.
Yeah, I really like do appreciate his just drive to go on adventures and experiment with photography. You know, like he's I don't know. I don't imagine it's only just for the YouTube. Like he seems to genuinely enjoy this stuff of like, you know, going and trying many different film stocks in different different environments, going on like, yeah, just I would like to treat a lot of photography in the same way of just using it on my adventuring and traveling around and stuff. I haven't done a lot of traveling around lately, but like, you know, I do like that approach of just
well, it's
having
been
it
kind
with
of
you.
hard for us to travel around, just given the way the world has been as of late.
Why? What's been going on?
What's been going on the last like 3 years? I don't know. But yeah, that's like one of the things I really like am drawn to with a lot of photographers are ones that have that like that sense of being traveled and capturing different places and different times. Like, you know, a lot of Robert Frank stuff is really great for that. And, you know, of course, like, you know, I've got a huge love for Jason Lee's work because he does a ton of that primarily on the road.
Right.
And I'm a huge sucker for road trips. So, like, his photography kind of hits me right in the feels from that perspective just because, like, it's all shot from the road for the most part. And
Yeah, I definitely like can get behind his like I don't know, general like life, like, you know, he was like a skateboarder and then actor
He still
and
is
like
deadly skateboarder.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. I tried going skateboarding last week. I still like to skate. I just suck at it now, and I'm old. Like my back went out, and it literally like doing a pop shove it, and like I landed it, but I still am so just out of
like,
shape that it was
need to
enough that
hobble.
like I tweaked my back, and it's been sore for like 5 days. So yeah, that's where I'm at with skating. But
There's a young
still love
photographer
that.
who has a studio in the building adjacent to mine here, and bless her heart, she's like mid-20s something, and she's like, "You skateboard?" I'm like, "I have a skateboard." Like, I roll around on it sometimes. She's
Yeah.
like, "Let's go skateboarding." I'm like, "I might die."
Yeah, like seriously, if I hit a rock, like that could be the end of me.
Yeah, and like it's weird when you get older the things you worry about, because like I didn't worry about a lot of shit even up until 2020 was like the year I started worrying more about health after the car accident, because like my head got super fucked up in that, and it's still a little fucked up. So it's like I want to get back into skateboarding, not only because Zena is trying to push me into it, but my niece and nephew just started skateboarding during the pandemic. My little brother's been showing them how to tear ass on it.
Nice.
And they're like, "Uncle Merlin, come skating with us." And I'm like, "Uncle Merlin's old as fuck. Like,
yeah, but
you might watch Uncle Merlin die."
Even just going and being at a park or something is I'll never not like that experience. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's that kind of gritty way that we grew up as kids, that you just I don't know. Like how I grew up, we were in high school drinking 40s of Old English and in the skate park, and the cops would come and you run away from them and go smoke weed in a forest, and that was that has a fond place in my heart. I don't do most of those things now. 40s of OE.
Don't
no,
do it,
no,
no.
yeah, but
I tried to relive the dream a few years back. I bought a 40 of Old English. And man, I used to drink this shit all the time. There's a reason I don't anymore. I can afford nicer things. Is the biggest one. And where I grew up, they actually stopped selling Old English for a year, because when they looked at sales, the only people buying it were kids.
Yeah, the only people buying it are underage. So yeah.
What fucking grown man with kids is gonna be like, you know what I want to spend $5.25 on tonight? 40 of Old English, so I can get all fucked up on malt liquor and beat my children.
No.
That doesn't happen.
We're done with that.
Yes. But it is interesting, the skateboarding connection, though, with photography. Because there's so many great photographers who started out as skateboarders. And, a lot of the photographers that I find inspiration from, that I really dig, all happen to be photographers, too.
Yeah, and you were saying, your friend who came on at the start.
Grant.
Grant, yeah, that's, doing skate photography. That's something that has kind of crossed my mind of, I would, maybe to... there are some really great skateboarders that live here in Van, and it would be cool to get more involved in the scene here with that, and bring a camera and get some cool shots of that. I don't know, it would be just a fun challenge more than what I would want to do as a style or anything, but it would be cool to go and just grab some great skate photos and try it out, especially I don't know, with film. I've never really done any action photography stuff, so that'd be
fun to experiment.
Yeah,
you could probably just probably bring your camera down to a skate park and just hang out, and someone will be cool with you taking pictures.
Totally. Yeah, that should.
And, might even run into Sluggo.
Oh yeah, he's still out here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. There's there's a couple. There's a guy that I went to high school with. Spencer Hamilton is a pro, and he was in Ottawa where I grew up, and now he's out here. But professional skater, and
That's
you know,
cool.
you see him around the streets and stuff, and you're like, you know, it's like a bit starstruck, and like, you know, no one else maybe would care. Like the types of like celebrities that maybe like I would be just like in shock by seeing, like he'd be one of them, or like, you know, someone from the Anticon record label, you know, those
Yeah.
kinds of things that like, versus like seeing, I don't know, some famous like movie actor or something, like wouldn't be
They're a
as
little more
exciting.
chill too. Like, you know, I like Buck a lot. I've met him a couple of times at shows, and just a really sweet man.
Yeah.
And I have a friend, Daniel, was homies with him. They've toured a bunch, and when he talks about stories of them on the road, like it's just very like wholesome kind of shit. Where it's like everyone's gonna go get turned, and they're like, let's go get some food and read a book.
Yeah, I could picture that.
Yeah, which I'm like, I could totally get behind that kind of speed things. Yeah, that is like one thing that's cool with Vancouver is that sort of like connection with skateboarding here. I think especially being so close to California, there was a lot of that cross pollination between things here,
And I guess the weather being like pretty mild, like you can skate year round, and like I always kind of struggled with that in Ontario. Like wanted to, like, I don't know, maybe I stopped for a couple years after high school, but then I get into it, but then like you get good for a summer, and then like hello winter for 6 months, and then you start from scratch again. And out here you can kind of like,
and the winter's so vicious out there too.
oh yeah, it's brutal.
Like, you know, we get snow for like a minute,
yeah,
and then it's gone, and like, you know, it's
yeah, which is
a bit nicer
nice.
out here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been liking that, to be honest. It's
but then you have the rain.
yeah, but I don't know. I feel like it's not so far as often as people have like touted it. So maybe that's just to keep everyone away. But it's, I mean, there was like a month when I basically first got here. It rained for like a month straight, and we were like, yeah, I don't know about this place. Like, I think we're maybe go somewhere else. But that was, I think, special circumstances.
Well, that happened to me when I first moved here in like 2005. I was living out in Port Moody, and for like the first like 4 months I was here, it was just brutal rain every day. It was like so fucking depressing, and I was just like, man, I don't need help with depression. I'm plenty good at like depressing the shit out of myself. So that was a little weird. But then when you have like days like this, you know, Vancouver is just friggin' lovely, and yeah, it's a bit different than. And the summers aren't as sweltering here. I mean, summers in Toronto suck.
Yeah, you get like
all the weather sucks there.
Exactly. Maybe a good month or two in the spring and fall there.
Yeah,
so.
just not good weather, which is super, super weird. And I do have to give a thanks though with the skateboarding connection. There's a bit of foam here, and why I'm shooting this way instead of shooting the other way is I've got a bunch of like sound foam over here. But there's a guy, David Boyce. He's part of like Red Dragon and stuff. He did a podcast for several years called The Boyce Life, and he tore down the podcast stuff. And you know, I picked up the foam. So
that's
it's like,
cool.
we're stepping it up a little bit more here, to like not have the echoey corner over here. That's why you can see the black there. But it's cool to have that sort of like connection to another cool podcast here. And,
yeah.
You know, and that's one thing I'm hoping with like the space here at the City Center Motel is just tapping more into connecting with other creatives and interesting folks, and also like inviting other people into the space here to like use it to do stuff, because there were a lot of people that wanted to get in here that you know, that they couldn't. It filled up really fast.
I bet. Yeah, it's like, I mean, I was saying I didn't have any idea that this was kind of like artist spaces or anything, but it just has like a really cool vibe, and it's like really well situated too to be like a good hub, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm just kind of curious because starting next week, they're going to start prepping the building and the pavement for paint. And so from like basically all of May, the parking lot's going to be inaccessible because they're going to be painting murals and stuff on the buildings
right.
and on the parking lot, which could be really cool or really messy. So I'm hoping it's cool. They're saying they're going to paint the doors, which I don't know how I feel about having my door painted with something that I have no say about.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like the look of the building. Kind of has that like hasn't been touched in years vibe. But
yeah, where it's like, you know, you could probably like come hang out here and find a beer and maybe some drugs.
Yeah.
It has that look about it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Which some people found some really weird shit when they were tearing their room apart. One person found a syringe, like needle and everything, under their carpet, like in the middle of the room.
Yeah. Wow.
And, well, how? Like, how would that get there? Like, that would have to have been, like, put there when the people putting the carpet down.
Yeah, that's messed up.
There. But the weirdest one, apparently, was, like, a massive butt plug that was, like, tucked up in a bookcase.
All right. I mean, seedy motel. That doesn't surprise me. Maybe.
Yeah, it was like stashed up on the top of a bookcase, and they're like, maybe this was like a communal butt plug where it's just like, you know, if you go to this room, look on top of the bookcase.
Why does everyone keep asking for room 205?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess one of the artists that were friends with the people who found the butt plug is going to make a showcase box for it that'll say "break in case of emergency."
Nice. I like that.
Yeah. So there's some like, you know, character here. Apparently, the ones downstairs even have like creepy crawl spaces in their closets that go into like an unknown basement area.
Wow. Yeah.
So I like being on the top floor with the Vancouver view until whatever they're building here ruins it for me. Do you have any like projects or things that you've been thinking of doing or wanting to do with your photography, or is it mostly just like for cathartic purposes?
Yeah, like still would say that's the main thing. Like I was telling someone I met here recently, we went for a photo walk and he has like a project in mind, and I'm kind of like a bit jealous of that too, of like just not really like feeling like what, I don't know what that would be right now, but I also don't like, I feel like, not trying to force any projects. I kind of just like, sometimes, I guess, like looking back at old photos and like you just like start making connections based on like what you're seeing out of them. I feel like maybe that will be how like a project would come together. There's definitely starting to be some like coherence and trends, I guess I would say, of like what I gravitate towards, or like things that are consistent through my photos, but it's still, I think, I don't want to like tie it down too much either, and just like start trying to make a book or like something like that. Like, here's the thing, is like I tend to try to make everything into a business in some way. Like, you know, I'll learn how to bake bread. I'm like, oh, should I like, you know, open a bakery? It's like, no, you idiot.
Get on
just
sourdough kit then too?
I did, but like even before pandemic, to be quite honest, I was reading like the Ken Forkish's book like a few years back, and like got quite into baking bread, and I realized I didn't want to do that as a I don't know, a trade or like as a business, but like I can't help but every time I like get into something that I feel like sort of passionate about, like I was a musician and really like tried to make music work, you know, and like these things sometimes are better left being a creative outlet, and if I personally try to push them too hard to be something, then they become less enjoyable, or they become more of a source for like burnout or like taking energy from me versus like giving me energy. And so that's kind of where I'm at with stuff. It's just been a long couple years, you know, of like, so I'm enjoying like half the time I'm shooting photos, it's maybe like end of a work day, and like, I don't know, I would be like getting sucked into just like a YouTube rabbit hole or like on my phone or something. It's like, no, I'm just like go and like adventure around and like, and I never regret it. Like no matter where I like end up, or if it's raining or gray or it's sunny, like it's always like, even if you come back with like no photos, it's just like a nice mental health experience for me. Doesn't mean I always like do that. Like sometimes I just bail and like, no, I'm not like going today, but that's like my main thing with photography right now, I guess. And we'll see where it goes.
I think that's a good way to go about it. It's just not to like have, not to get caught up in too much, and just leave yourself open to exploring and having fun with it.
Yeah. What about you? Do you have specific projects or anything that you're in the middle of? Or?
Oh man. Yeah. So I've got a group show coming up first week in May in Toronto at it's this fancy hair salon on Bloor Street West called Queen Shop.
I think I saw you post about this.
Yeah. The what is it? Debased, Depraved Degenerates.
Yeah.
It's
that's cool.
It's me and Becca and my friend Leslie and my friend David and Queen Shop, Alicia there, who's amazing. She is a really interesting business person, and she built this really like high-end salon, and it's a huge space on Bloor West. And what she does every month, did before COVID, was have a different artist come in and put work in every month. So she'd always have interesting shit for her clients to see. And it didn't really cost her much. No, nothing at all, really.
Yeah.
And what she would do is like, you could have your work there for a month. She'd take like a little bit off whatever sold, if anything sold, and then she'd do like an opening night. And so she did an opening night for my first book, which, where is it? Yeah, which was the Bodegas book. It was fun.
Cool.
And that actually happened because she reached out to me on Instagram and was like, I like your photography. Do you want to come do like a exhibition in my space? And she's like, well, just come and chat with me, and we can sort things out. And when I was talking with her, I mentioned that I was thinking about making this book project. And she's like, great, we'll do a book release party. And I was like, okay, awesome. And I was nowhere near planning stages of actually putting a book together. And then I was walking back to my car, I'm like, fuck, I have 6 weeks to make a book.
Yeah.
So it's just like, luckily everything was shot, so all I had to do was get a layout put together, which, you know, Cohen, my friend Chris, he used to work for Post Media doing that kind of stuff for a long time, so like he bailed me out hardcore. And he did all the design for me, and then I self-published it through Blurb. And it was a lot of fun. They sold out all the copies that I printed. And now that things are opening up again because we beat COVID, it's finally over or something. She reached out being like, hey, like, do you want to do another show? And I'm like, I don't actually live in Toronto anymore. And she's like, well, if you're ever out there, like, maybe we could do something. And I thought about it a little bit. I was like, I don't really want to do a solo show, because like, I don't know, I don't find myself that important. So like, I'm not like trying to like, you know, get a book out there or anything. So I'm just like, you know, I don't really want it to be about just me. So I messaged her being like, hey, I'm down to do it, but like, could I do it with some friends.
Mm-hmm.
Like, would that be cool? And she was like, as long as it's like, you know, in line with like your street stuff, totally cool. So I reached out to the three degenerates that I know would be closest to me.
Yeah,
And,
that's awesome.
They were like, yeah, we're totally down. So
that's like a great excuse to bring friends together, work on something, you know, and
yeah, well,
it'll be more rewarding
more
that
fun.
way. Yeah.
And you know, I don't know if Leslie or Becca have showed anything, and I think David might have, but like, you know, I just thought it'd be fun for people to get their stuff out there. It sounds like most of us are going big with the print, because David's like, oh, I'm gonna do like, you know, next step up from 11 by 17, and I was like, that's huge, man, because I was thinking of like maybe doing like 8 by 10s and like 11 by 14. But then when I looked at Downtown Camera, it's $1 difference between 11 by 17 and 12 by 18. And I was like, fuck it. I'm just going to get all four, each of us, the four of us, get 3 prints each to put up.
Yeah.
So I'm doing all of mine 12 by 18. And Becca's like, well, fuck it, I'm going to do it too.
Yeah,
So,
that's awesome.
we're all going to go with huge photos. And what I think I might also do is throw together like a zine of it, because I have this like big fucking bastard of a color laser printer here.
Nice.
That I picked up for doing wheat pastes this year. I was thinking of like just throwing together like a quick little like 8.5 by 11 zine of all the work. So if people come and see it, but they don't want to buy prints, but they want to like, you know, leave with something, they can take that. So have that going on. I've been fucking around with a follow-up to the Bodegas book for a while. Originally, like, I wanted to do convenience stores across Canada. Like, when I was moving from Toronto to here, I wanted to like stop along the way and like, you know, snap some convenience stores in like all the little towns and shit. And I was gonna call it Canadian Convenience. But then I really fucked up my move out here and didn't have the time, and ended up spending a whole bunch of extra money because I'm a fucking idiot. It's a long story. So that didn't end up happening. So, but what I think I might do is make one for Vancouver, because oddly enough, they're not as prevalent as Toronto. But if you like scour around,
yeah, you can find some. Yeah,
there's a few spots.
Some
here.
character-full spots.
Yeah. And so what I think I'm going to do with those, I'm going to shoot those on pack film. That was all Portrait 400, medium format.
Yeah.
Veronica. So I think for the Vancouver one, I'm going to do it all on pack film for the external shots, and then maybe have like on the right page a pack film shot of the outside, and then on the left page maybe a quad of like 35mm interior shots.
Yeah.
Just do 2-page spread for each one. And
That's
I'm going to
cool.
do a reissue of that one maybe this year, because before I left Toronto, I drove to every address that I photographed there to see if they still existed or not.
Yeah.
And like 5 of them are gone now.
Right.
They're like other things. So I took pictures of those on pack film of what they look like now. And so I'll probably do a reissue of that one with the added photos. And then like under the address add like an active or deceased stats.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then there was like one. It's one of the weirdest places I've shot, but like in the summer, I was telling you about Space Lab, my friend that sells the turntables. He also does like estate cleanups and things like that, and he invited me out to this like beautiful house, but straight out of Hoarders. But you could tell like at one point the people had money, and it was a very like the bones of the house were like rich.
Mhm.
Like it was a fucking gorgeous house with like decades of just, I don't know, neglect, but life. Like there was just life everywhere, and it was super weird because there's just a bunch of strangers in this house going through what's left of these people's lives, trying to assign value to it and figure out, what should just go in the bin and what should be try to be sold. Turns out the guy used to be an accountant, and it was super weird, just like walking through this person's life. Like they had kids there at one point. The attic was interesting because it was the kids' room in the attic, and all their shit was still there. Like they had like awards from like the youth bowling league and like all these things. One of them had their like Kiss Army placard like still on the wall there, and it just was really kind of surreal and jarring to be walking through someone's life and just arbitrarily being like, yeah, this looks interesting, keep this as garbage. But at some point, like everything there was valuable to the people that were in that space at one time. So took a bunch of black and white photos of the space, and I might throw that into a book called The Accountant's House.
That sounds cool. Yeah. That sounds... Yeah, like, projects don't have to necessarily be just, like, spanning all this geographic, landscape, like, all this space. Like, you can just have a project in one place, and that can be enough if you have enough interest there. And it sounds like there is with this house. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, it was a weird day too, because like the house had me feeling really weird, and just kind of borderline like existential crisis weird. Just make you think about like life and what you leave behind and things like that. And that was the same day that dude got crushed at the McDonald's in the drive-thru.
I didn't hear about that, but we don't have to get into that.
Well, so it made the accountant's house even weirder, because like while I was at the accountant's house, I saw this thing pop up on Facebook, and a friend was like posting about how this like dude that morning got crushed in the McDonald's drive-thru at Science World.
Wow.
He dropped his debit card or something, and he like opened the door to try and like lean out and get it, but he left his car and drive, and
Oh my god.
just went forward and
Oh my god.
smooshed him.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and I was like, whoa. I was already feeling like fucked up about life, and then that was just like, this is really fucking weird life-wise. I'm gonna try these.
Thanks.
Yeah, it was just like really fucking weird. And I had to drop someone off in Chinatown. When I was driving back, I got stuck in traffic right at McDonald's. And like I looked over without even thinking, and I was just like staring straight at the drive-thru, and I saw like the pole that his car like mangled.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is a fucking weird day.
Yeah, like the mix of the two events coming together is, I don't know, enough to give like a new context to it. Or like, you bring two completely random events, but then there's learnings to be drawn from both that come together.
Well, and I've been talking with a few other people about this. Is like, I don't know if you've ever felt it as a photographer, but I feel it sometimes, and other people I've talked to have had like similar kinds of feelings. But like, as someone who creates photos and captures things, is there a responsibility for us to like document the world around us, you know, not only for like our own purposes, but just like for other people to gain something from them. And yeah, just something about the accountant's house that made me think about that a lot.
Yeah, definitely. It is interesting, kind of same as like with the bodegas, like seeing these places that you take a photo, you may think not much of it at the time, and then you see that place is torn down, or that there was a fire, and like those kinds of things that like all of a sudden you realize there's this documentation aspect to your work without maybe even whether it was intended or not. Like I've had that experience and been like, oh, okay, yeah, like you kind of feel like something like people need to see this now, you know, like, yeah, it's interesting.
The Bodegas book was an interesting one too, because like that just started as me trying to connect with Toronto. So I would just have my camera in my car, and when I was driving around, take pictures of them, because like there's not many of them here in BC anymore. But when I was a kid, convenience stores were everywhere. Like that's where you go buy penny candies and shit like that. And now it's mostly like gas stations. Like gas stations have sort of replaced the convenience store. So I felt drawn to them because of that. But then when I put the book out and people came to Queen Shop to like, you know, check out the release and look at the book, it was interesting like hearing Toronto locals, their interpretation of the book and like how it made them feel, where you know, a few people were like, oh, my first apartment was like, you know, right around from this one, or like when we were kids we'd like hang out at this one, that's where like we'd meet up with you know, after school, like, or it's like if you, because it's like before cell phones for a lot of people, it's like if you wanted to hang out with friends, it's like just meet outside of like Dunn Milk at like, you know, 4 o'clock kind of thing. So it was neat seeing people connecting with it that way, but also hearing how important those spaces were. Not only as like meeting grounds, but also as community support. Like there's one person that was talking about how the convenience store in their hood ran tabs for everyone. And so it's like, you know, if you were between paychecks and you needed like bread and milk and like, you know, sandwich meat and shit like that, the convenience store owner would just be like, you know, take it, get your parents to hit me up on payday kind of thing. And it was just like, it was neat hearing about the communities that sort of revolved around the convenience stores. And
did you had one growing up as well? You said like you went, you know, and would go get penny candies. Like I remember having that same experience as a kid of like, and it was like a few blocks away, so it was like an adventure for a 7 or 8 year old or whatever to be going. Like me and my little sister would like trek down there sometimes, like with our parents or not, and like it was always an adventure. And they had like samosas there, but they would only make them once a week, or like, but you have those like memories. It's all that you're just it was definitely a part of like my youth growing up, and I feel like a lot of people who are in our generation.
Yeah, like it was, if you didn't have your allowance, you'd spend the day like looking for like pop cans and shit, so you could go return them and buy like 4 candies.
Yes.
Shit like that.
Totally.
Or if you were like flush from allowance day, you could go play the video games there. Like the one convenience store in Fort St. John where I grew up, they had like a Neo Geo gaming console thing with like, I can't remember the name of the fighting game, but it was like Street Fighter but for Neo Geo.
Okay.
And so we'd go play that, and Spy Hunter and shit like that. So it was really, I don't know, they're really interesting. So far, it's just the 2 books. The other one was this guy, which was during the lockdown in Toronto.
Polaroids.
Yeah, so it was only supposed to be 2 weeks. So I was like, I could take 2 weeks of Polaroids. And then it wasn't. It wasn't 2 weeks at all.
Yeah. You're telling me.
They lied. So I think I stopped it at 53 days because it was getting to be a mighty expensive project.
That's awesome.
I ended up buying like all the Polaroid in SWO. Like, I was just hitting up all of like the Best Buy's curbside things.
Right,
and
right.
I'd just be like, all right, they got like 4 packs in Hamilton. Going to Hamilton. I think I went to Waterloo to get some once because I had like fucking bought out all of the Polaroid in the GTA. It was kind of wild.
So that was you that drove the film prices up.
For Polaroid, at least. Yeah.
It's okay, we got this.
Can't blame it all on Brooklyn Film Camera. I'll take some blame on this one. Yeah. But it's fun. Like, I think it's important to put things into like a tangible thing you can share with other people. I think that's why I like Polaroid so much.
Yeah. Polaroids like have that built in, which is very cool.
It's extremely cool.
I do definitely want to at some point create a project that like is printed and like an archive of like it just I don't know. I was you go through like Lightroom and you're looking at your old photos and it's just not the same like as like flipping through a book. Like I love, I don't know, looking through a good photography book and it's more, I think it would be great to I haven't even like really printed something from my wall yet. Like I just like have avoided this whole, when something's like a bigger thing in your head until you do it, and then you do it, you're like, oh, that's just another thing, like, but you just haven't done it yet. Well, I mean, that's where I'm at with it, but I just gotta kind of step up and do it.
If you've never printed anything big yet, I'll open up an invitation here, because I'm going to do this with a few other people. I bought this 11 by 17 printer to do wheat pastes this year.
Mm-hmm.
So, my friend Jeremy in Toronto/Hamilton is a huge wheat paster out there. He just recently put out a book, which is like a history and instruction guide on wheat pasting.
You had him on the show, I think, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I listened to that.
He's an interesting cat. And then also his creative partner, Danielle, was on here recently too. But there's a few other people that I've been talking with about getting together and putting some like prints up that we could all go paste out. So if there's a photo or two that you want to like put together, we can whip them up on this thing and go make a guerrilla art installation somewhere.
Yeah, man. Let's do it. Yeah, for sure. I'm down for that.
Speaking of Polaroids, I need to get your Polaroid for the door. Let's take this real quick here.
Well, we got light, right?
Yeah, you got good light right now. Okay. 1, 2. Perfect. Is any big plans for like the summer or spring?
So, yeah, this spring and summer, we just got a car.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, which like we lived in Toronto. There was no need really to have a car in Toronto when you're like right downtown, and it just didn't make sense there for the many years I was there. I like moved to Toronto from Ottawa. Everyone in Ottawa like has a car to get around, and so when I moved to Toronto, I maybe had it for a year or two, and then like I was like, I'm just spending money on this like thing to rot and do nothing. So then I basically went through most of Toronto not having a car. We came out here and kind of realized like a lot of the stuff that we wanted to access is definitely like a lot easier to have a car. Yeah. And it just, the Evo system is great here. It's like the portable car, or like the, what do you call it, car sharing system is really great for like certain things getting around in the city, but not so much like getting out into nature or adventuring, because like it's so expensive when you like take it for more than, I don't know, 20 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good for like the quick pickup, drop off kind of thing. Or it's
Yeah,
like, you
really
rode-
good for that.
Yeah, or you rode your bike somewhere and you're like, I don't want to fucking
Totally, yeah.
ride my bike home. You can just throw it on the roof and away you go.
Exactly. So that is kind of like, that was a recent purchase, but like not just to have a car, like to have for day-to-day stuff. It really is like, we're, I don't know, planning to adventure a lot with it and go, you know, on some camping trips, go to Vancouver Island, go now into the States now that we can travel and like cross the border, and those, like, just get back to a bit of like that fun adventure stuff that like I really miss a lot of.
Also, if you end up ordering any like film stuffs or camera stuffs, and you hate shipping,
Yeah.
get a post box in Point Roberts.
I did. I picked something up from Point Roberts the other week for the first time, and it was a very easy experience. It was kind of, it was a fun little afternoon. I drove down, went and took some photos down by the
Did you go to the
beach.
Breakers?
What was it?
It's called like the Breakers or something. It used to be like a big popular pub, but it's been closed for a
Oh
long
no,
time.
I didn't even see that. I like kind of ended up at this like park overlooking the water. Ended up chatting with some guy that I met there, who was just there with his binoculars, looking, kind of looking for whatever was out there, and we were chatting a bit and chat about photography, and he was like, he's like, next time you come down here, I have a Yashica, like
OTLR?
TLR, yeah.
Oh, wow.
That he's like, yeah, you can grab that from me. And so I'll probably head back down there soon, because I've actually never shot with one. And it was just like a funny little afternoon. It was kind of like today, where it was like gray and raining all day. And it's another example of this, like, I don't really want to even go do a thing right now. And then I go, the like sun like comes out, and like you just go and like meet some person who's like, you've unlocked free camera mode, and you're like, what? Like, just like the funny things that life brings you when you go and say yes to like a little adventure. So just this tiny little stateside like town, Point Roberts, was a cool little journey. So
I definitely want to go back. It had a weird vibe to it.
Yeah.
It's not creepy, but just like, I don't know. It's like a little space that's been dying.
It's a very like secluded space, and in chatting with this guy, I didn't think much of it until he mentioned it, but like they were stuck there, like in Point Roberts.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't, for most of the pandemic, they, it's like this little like weird slice like on the map that like is cut off from the rest of the states, like a mini Alaska, but it's like 20 kilometers away from like, getting to the rest of the states, but like they couldn't get there, and they couldn't cross the border. Eventually they built them they like started running a ferry there maybe once a week or something, he was saying, but like for the most part they were just like there. And I think a lot of people who are probably in Point Roberts tended to like jump over the border quite often.
Well, in vice versa, like it's a weird part of the States because it's completely landlocked.
Yeah.
Like it's just outside of Delta. So Rachel says she loves Point Roberts.
Oh yeah? Very cool.
It's a cool joint. I went there late in the day, so I didn't really get to see a whole ton. I wish I went a little earlier, because like the sun started going away, so it was like really sort of like gray and moody, which was cool for taking shots too, because it was just like, this place has got some sass.
Yeah, it definitely, like, I didn't get to spend a ton of time there either, but like enough to know like this is somewhere I want to come back to, and so I'm gonna ship something here soon, some film or something, and
it's wild how much cheaper it is.
Yeah,
like because I buy it directly from Polaroid usually, and it was like 3/4 less to get it shipped there than it was to like have it come up here.
Yeah, I've never, like, I guess Ottawa was, like, close-ish to, like, driving to the border, but, like, I never did that. My parents did that with a lot of stuff for, like, I don't know, working on the house. You'd, like, I don't know, order big things. I just never had to do that, but
the weird
it makes
thing
sense here.
for me, though, like, thinking about packages, like, picking up packages in Point Roberts is, it's still coming through Canada. Because, like, the packages have to come directly through Canada before they go there. So it's like, you did all the same work as if you were going to bring it to my house. But
Yeah,
it's
totally.
the things you think about.
That is really funny.
Yeah.
It's just, and that's kind of what's funny about Point Roberts, I guess.
Yeah.
It's like as soon as you cross over the border, it's gas stations and, like, parcel pickup places.
That's
and
it.
Like, they know what they're doing there. They know
Yeah.
what people are coming for. Like, that's what's there. Gas is, like, 30 cents cheaper. And yeah, like, I went, filled up gas, and then I'm like, oh, I'm a sucker. The guy beside me has, like, 10 jerry cans in his back that he's filling up, like, for, you know, for later. And it was just a funny experience to see what this, like, just, I don't know, like, what happens just because of this odd geographical slicing of this little town. So I would definitely recommend people pop on through if you have a package to pick up.
I can't believe the gas stuff right now. Like, I just filled up my car yesterday, and I kept, like, waiting for to go under 203, which doesn't even really matter for me anyways, because, like, I drive a turbo Volvo, so it needs champagne. So, like, it always has to be premium, which is, like, 270.
Oh my gosh.
So
yeah, that
I was waiting
hurts.
for the price to go down, and it just didn't. So I'm like, fuck, I'm running out of gas. And it was like $110. It's never cost me that much. And, like, I haven't bitched about the gas prices yet. This is my first time doing it. But I was just like, you know, back in my day when I started driving, it was 54 cents a liter for gasoline.
Man,
and even then, people bitched about how expensive it was.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I wish. I'd love to go back to.
Yeah, man, that really sucks. It's like, especially having to fill up premium, man. Like, I don't know. I'm on a, like, day to day. It doesn't make a huge difference. Like, whether it's a few cents, you know, like that. That's the thing. I don't even, like, play this waiting game too much. Though I did on the way to Point Roberts, because I was like, well, it probably is a meaningful difference. But, like, it wasn't meaningful enough that I should have gone down to, like, there's, like, 5K left in your tank, and you're, like, running on fumes and, like, just hoping that I get across the border, and there better be a gas station really close. And there was, but, like, was it worth that song and dance of, like, I don't know, saving, I don't know, $3? Like, now I know.
Yeah.
That I will probably do that again. Anyway, makes life more fun, right? A little mission.
What's up, Mr. Bruno? Yeah, Brian Bruno just joined us. Cool. Well, I mean, this has been interesting. This is the first time I've done an in-person one.
Yeah.
Like, usually it's just, like, screen to screen.
Totally.
Yeah, I think 10 out of 10. I definitely do the in-person experience again, and hopefully everyone here enjoyed it. I think you're getting sunned out. I'm starting to get sunned out.
Yeah, it really hit us, but got our vitamin D
We
for
did.
this session. So.
Well, we definitely needed the vitamin D with the way the rain has been the last little bit. Yeah, I think we can wrap it up now.
Let's wrap it on up.
So, play the thing. Jeffrey says loves the in-person format. I mean, anyone that's in Vancouver that wants to do one of these and uses a camera for something, we can definitely chat it out. I'm pretty, like, fast and loose with the rules of the chat, so you know, you don't even have to be just bring a camera. That's good enough. Who do we have coming up next? So we've got here today. Next week, I'm gonna have Sarah Button out of Texas. She's in Marfa now, but she used to be in Denton. She's gonna be joining, and then the week after that, I'm in Toronto for the group show. But I'm gonna talk with Octavia Sharp on the 5th. And then I'm also going to do a live from the exhibition for a little bit, so you can, chat with Becca and David. I don't think Leslie's going to be able to make it, so yeah, that's the next couple weeks of the chat. And thank you so much, Cam, for hanging out here, and thank you everyone for tuning in and spending some time with us. I hope you all stay safe out there, and try to stay out of trouble.
Thanks for having me. Have a good night, everyone.
Cheers, everybody. Oh, we still got. I didn't time that out very yet. There's still like 10 seconds left. Where's my mouse cursor? It's hard with the sun. All right. Thanks, everyone. You're the best. I love you guys, and we'll see you next week. All right, bye.